Happy Wednesday, everyone. I'm a pastor Jason, a pastor at Meadville Church of the Nazarene in Meadville, Pennsylvania, and this is my week two confessions video. If you haven't had a chance yet, go to faithandfootball.blogspot.com, and you can check out my fantasy football blog. Each week there is a help guide that kind of talks about who to start, who not to start. It's actually really more suggestions though, so. Again, it's your team. I can't make the decision for you in the end. If you decide to follow my advice and it goes wrong, it was still your decision. All right. So what I do is on this in this I give myself grades for each section. Over in the comment section, I have provided you with a link to last week's article, so you can kind of read along and see what my picks were, what I had to say. So we're going to kind of start off with the quarterbacks. Quarterbacks, I gave myself a C. I had Alex Smith. I had him as a must start against the Colts. Who would have thought that the Colts defense would hold the Washington Redskins to 9 points? The defense played pretty solid. Now the question is the Colts defense improving, or did the Redskins just play that poorly? But whatever the case was, I gave myself a C for Alex Smith this week because I had him as a must start. And he did get some quite a bit of yardage, even though he didn't get a touchdown, mainly because they were throwing the ball pretty much most of the second half, just trying to get back in the game. Case Keenum, I had him as a must start also, or a good idea to start, and the Raiders defense kind of held him in check. He didn't have any touchdown passes, so I gave myself a D for Case Keenum. Luck, I had him as a good idea to start as well. I gave myself a C for him also. He ended up with 2 interceptions and just under 200 yards. And that's what's so remarkable about the Colts winning, though, was he kind of he had a poor game and we still were able to win by double digits. And if you don't realize this about me yet, I'm a Colt. I grew up in the Indianapolis area, so I'm a Colts fan, and so I especially when I come to pick the teams to win, you'll realize I don't pick against the Colts ever. Okay, let's see. The next up was Ryan Fitzpatrick. I gave myself an F for him. I had him as a he might not have a good week type person. He ended up going off for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. He's just lighting it up all over the field right now. I don't know if it's play calling. I don't know if it's him being in that offense. Whatever it is, he's lighting it up. And really, Fitzpatrick is kind of my sneaky pick for this week. I think we just watched Mahomes destroy the Steelers secondary, and that's who the Buccaneers have this week. They have the Steelers. The Steelers are going down to Tampa Bay. It's going to be on Monday night. I actually not only do I think Fitzpatrick has another big game this week, I think the Buccaneers beat the Steelers and put the Steelers at 0-3. Next up is Joe Flacco. I gave myself an F for Joe Flacco. He burned me again. I had him as a not start last week against the Bills, and he lit them up. But that's the thing with Flacco, though. He kind of lures you into a trap. Think of the guy from Star Wars that yells, "It's a trap!" That's what Flacco's doing to us right now. He's luring us in, and then he's going to give us a big goose egg. And I'm still not sold on the Flacco numbers right now, but at the same time, you can't really deny the evidence that's going on. He's having a pretty good start to the season. Then Sam Darnold, I had him as a don't start at all. He's playing a divisional opponent at down in Miami, and I thought for sure they would hold him in check, but he still was able to throw for 300 yards. He did have a couple. He threw for 300 yards and a touchdown. I think he still had a couple interceptions in that, but he played much better than I thought he was going to. All right. With that being said, part of my reason why this broadcast is called Faith, my blog is called Faith in Football, is that I have 3 passions in my life. It's Jesus is Jesus. Then I have fantasy football and my faith in Christ, and so this blog is an attempt to kind of put those 3 things together. So I do have a devotional that I usually share each week as part of the help guide. And so if you're a Christian that plays fantasy football, or you're part of a league and you have some guys that aren't Christians, this stuff is something good to help share with them because it gets them in encounter with the gospel. But this week's scripture reference, if I can find the book of Zechariah, that's where our reference came from. The book of Zechariah, chapter 13, and this is a very powerful passage of scripture. It was something I read, and it kind of caught me off guard. And I'm reading from the New Revised Standard Version. This is what it says. It says, "On that day, the prophets will be ashamed, every one of them, everyone of their visions when they prophesy. They will not put on a hairy mantle in order to deceive, but each of them will say, I am no prophet. I am a tiller of the soil, for the land has been my possession since my youth. And if anyone asks them, what are these wounds on your chest? The answer will be the wounds I received in the house of my friends. Um, that last verse, when we read it, it says, the wounds I received in the house of my friends. It kind of makes it sound like that this guy is being wounded by the people that are around him. But in reality, what's happening in this passage, this is why I started reading at verse 4. It's talking about a false prophet who's going around saying these visions and prophesying things that God did not tell him to do. He's pretty much making it up and then saying it and then trying to use God to establish credibility for himself. And so that's kind of the passage we the devotional focused around this week is that this prophet, false prophet, who is saying, I have wounds in the house of my friends. All right, kind of continue on down the grading path here. The running backs, I gave myself a C for them as well. The Kamara from the Saints, I gave myself a B grade on him because he only had 75. He only has 75 rushing yards on the season, but the guy catches so many passes out of the backfield. He just gets so many touches, man. He's still a fantasy beast. So I thought it was a good pick. Barkley, I had him in the good idea to start category from the Giants. He didn't rack up a ton of yardage in the run game this week, but man, the guy, he had a ton of targets in the passing game. It seemed like every time Manning went back to throw, he was checking it down to Barkley. So if that's a trend that continues, he's going to become a must start every week. Next up, Adrian Peterson. I gave myself an F for Adrian Peterson. Again, I thought the Redskins were totally going to come in and their offense was going to run all over, throw all over the Colts defense. But man, give the Colts credit. In the defense was just played pretty tough this week. So as a Colts fan, I'm really really excited about that. But as a fantasy person, that if you started Adrian Peterson, he only had 20 yards rushing, and again, he had tough time getting going in the first half, and then when he had to kind of abandon the run and throw it in the second half just to try and get back in the game, that really kind of distorted his chances of having a productive fantasy week. Then there's Mixon from the Bengals. I gave myself a C for him, but the reason I'm highlighting him is just know if you have him on your team and you've been relying on him in your starting lineup, he's going to be out the next few weeks, so I would be looking for somebody else to start in his place. And then there's James Conner. I had him in either the risky category or the don't start. I can't remember which one, but one of those two. I gave myself an F because he's getting Bell's touches. All those yards, all those passes, everything that was designed to go to Le'Veon Bell is going to Conner right now. So while he might not have the athleticism of Bell, he's still going to get those touches, and he's still going to bring that's still going to bring him a lot of value in fantasy football. All right, kind of going back to our devotional. So what does this idea of a false prophet have to do with us? And the title of the help guide this week in the devotional section was calling out the false prophet. And I point out that we have a false prophet in our lives, and this false prophet isn't some preacher that gets up there and is spewing nonsense from the pulpit. It's not some guy on TV. It's not television. The biggest false prophet that we have to deal with in our lives is ourselves. We get up and we look in the mirror and we see ourselves and we hate ourselves because of the way we look. We hate ourselves because of we see ourselves as a failure, as a loser, as someone that no one in society wants, and we see ourselves as unworthy and unlovable. And really, if you belong to Jesus, those are all false statements. Matter of fact, even if you don't belong to Jesus, God loves you. God's there for you. God has a plan for you. Even though you sinned against him and didn't want him in your life, he was willing to die on a cross to provide you forgiveness. He loves you no matter what. And so, again, a false prophet is someone who says things that aren't true, and then they do so in the name of God. And so, when you look at yourself in the mirror, when you run yourself down, when you are subject to self-loathing and self-hatred, that's being a false prophet. You're saying things about yourself that aren't true, that go against God and what God has to say about you. So that makes you kind of the false prophet there. All right, let's continue on. So the other thing I've been doing as we've been going through this video is I've been doing a picking the games for the upcoming week also. I didn't post my picks for the first week, but last week I want you to know week 2 I went 9-7, so I was above 500 by a couple games. The Jacksonville game and the Jacksonville New England game really got me. I really thought New England would find a way to get it done, but man, Jacksonville was playing lights out. So here are my picks for this week's Thursday night. It's the Jets versus the Cleveland Browns. I'm picking the Cleveland Browns. The streak ends. This winning streak is going to end Thursday night. I think they find some way to beat the Jets, and so I'm picking Cleveland for Thursday night. The early games on Sunday, we have New Orleans versus Atlanta. I'm picking Atlanta in that one. I think it's going to be close, but I think Atlanta pulls it out. Buffalo versus Minnesota. I know the spread is huge on this one, but I still pick Minnesota. I think Minnesota even covers the spread in this one. Cincinnati versus Carolina. I'm picking Cincinnati to go into Carolina and win this one. I think the Bengals are the best team in the AFC North right now, here at the beginning of the season, and I think they can beat the Panthers. The Denver Broncos versus the Baltimore Ravens. I'm picking the Broncos. Broncos are 2-0. They beat the Raiders, and I can't remember who they beat the first week, but they're playing pretty good right now. Even though they're traveling, across the country to Baltimore, I think they pull it off. Green Bay versus Washington. I think Green Bay takes this one. Tennessee versus Jacksonville. I think Tennessee covers the spread, but I do think Jacksonville is going to get the win. And the only reason I think Tennessee covers is it's a divisional game, and divisional games always go tighter than expected, just because of how familiar the teams are with each other. Indianapolis versus Philadelphia. I'm picking Indianapolis. I told you earlier in the video I don't pick against the Colts, so I'm picking the Colts to go into Philly and upset the defending champs. San Francisco versus Kansas City. Again, this one I'm picking San Francisco to cover the spread. I think this one's going to be close, but I'm going to give Kansas City the win. I think the Mahomes domination through the air continues. I think he's just a good quarterback in the right system with the right coach that knows how to use his talents and abilities, and not just his talents and abilities, but to utilize the players that they have around him on offense. So again, I'm picking the Chiefs to win that one. Oakland versus Miami. I think Oakland goes to Miami, and John Gruden gets his first win since he's coming back. Then the last of the other games on Sunday is the Giants versus the Texans. I'm gonna pick the Texans in that one, just because I think Deshaun Watson, is gonna have a pretty good game against the Giants this week. All right, grades for my receivers. I gave myself a C for the receivers. Kind of only highlights there. I picked Beckham to kind of have a big game. He was playing. The Giants were playing prime time against the Cowboys, a divisional rival in the spotlight. I thought the Giants would rise to the occasion, and they kind of let me down last week. And Beckham had 5 catches, but only for 50 yards, and they kept him out of the end zone. So if you were in a PPR league, I gave myself a D grade wise. If you're a PPR, you might have had a little bit better success with him. You would probably been, in double-digit scoring, but if not, 5 points doesn't really get you very far in standard leagues. And then Golladay from the Lions, I gave myself an F for him. I picked him to not start, to struggle this last week against the 49ers. I really thought his success in week 1 was due to the fact that the Lions were playing from behind for most of the game. So Golden Tate and I can't remember the other guy off the top of my head, but the other 2 main receivers for the Lions usually get the majority of the catches, and so I thought Golladay was just benefiting from the week 1 playing from behind, but he was able to get 6 catches, 89 yards, and 2 scores this last week again. So, or no, not 2 scores, 1 score last week. So again, gave myself an F for that one. All right, so going back to this idea from our devotion of the false prophet. All right, so we are the false prophet in our lives sometimes. We are the ones that are spewing all this hatred about ourselves and really saying things that God never intended to say, that God has never said about us, believing things about ourselves that God doesn't want us to believe, let alone giving him credit for saying. Now, this doesn't deny the fact that we're all sinners, that we all have sinned against the glory of God. In some ways, we aren't worthy of God's love. We aren't worthy of the salvation that he's given to us. But God says, no, you're my child, and I will determine what you're worthy of. You belong to me. And because you belong to me, I love you, and I'm going to provide a way of forgiveness for you, so you don't have to be stuck in that past life. So that's what God did for us at the cross. And so what we have to do is we have to silence the false prophet. And the false prophet, the false prophet in us, what we do is instead of looking at ourselves and realizing we are spewing all of these lies and hatred about ourselves, is we look around us and we say, these are wounds I've received in the house of my friends. And so we look at the world around us and we blame the situations we're in. We blame the people that are in our lives. Now, I'm not discounting that people can be mean and cruel. I mean, watch the news, follow Facebook. People are mean and cruel in our world right now. Say the wrong thing on social media, and you'll get attacked from all angles. Post the wrong thing politically, and you'll be ripped apart in an instant. So yeah, we see the cruelty of people, and so I'm not denying that. I'm not denying that person is bullying you. I'm not denying the person is calling you names and running you down. But the falseness in that is when you hear what they're saying and you put your belief in their lives, you buy into their false religion, and not only do you buy into their false religion, you become a prophet, a messenger of their falseness, of the lies that they're telling. And so we look at them and say, the wounds I've received in the house of my friends, yes, they are wounding you, but then you're taking the instrument that they're using to wound you, and you're doing it for them. You're wounding yourself. Again, I'm not downplaying the negativeness of the situation, but there's a part of this is you have to overcome this self-hatred and this false identity of yourself, and realize that you are a child of God who's loved, who's worthy of being accepted. God has created you for a purpose that's beyond anything you could dream or imagine. And so we have to stop believing that false religion that we're not worthy and we're not loved, and accept in faith who God's called us to be. I love the new song. I think it's from Hillsong that says, "I am a child of God. I am who you say I am." And He says, "You are forgiven. You are loved. You are beautiful. You are wonderful. You're a masterpiece." And that's all scriptural. So we need to buy into to God, and to love Him and have faith in Him and what He's done for us, and that'll help us get rid of and silence the false prophet inside of us. All right, and so we have to stop making the choice to believe the lies that the world is telling us. All right, so going back to my picks. All right, so our Sunday late game picks, the Sunday afternoon picks. We have the Chargers versus the Rams. I'm picking the Rams in this one. Rams are at home. I know the Chargers and the Rams are both in Los Angeles, but I think the Rams could do. The Rams have a much better team. Next up is the Bears versus the Cardinals. I think the Bears go into Arizona and get in. I don't think the Cardinals are very good. I think they're hurting from the coaching change. I think they're hurting from having a new quarterback in the system. So I think the Bears go in there and get it done. And the Bears have played very well. I mean, this season so far. They gave the Packers a run for their money. They beat the Seahawks last week. So I think then going into Arizona beating the Cardinals should be pretty easy. Dallas for Seattle. Dallas is going to Seattle, and I don't think Dallas is going to survive it. I think Seattle is going to win this one. Let's see. All right, moving on to the tight end group. The tight end group, I got a C in that group as well. I told you the cook from the Raiders was a must start, and he was going to get a lot of targets. And I think he can get a lot of targets. I'm not sure any stats on that one, but he didn't have any touchdowns, and he was under 50 yards receiving. So that, again, PPR, you might have got a little bit more points from that, but in the standard league with no touchdown and under 50 yards, that was a very poor week. So I got a D for him. Gronk, I'll pat myself on the back for this one. I'm going to beat myself up in this confession. This week I'm confessing that I got Gronk right. I did an A for that one. I told you that the Jags have been very, very tough in this tight end position, and they came out and held him to 2 catches for 15 yards or something like that. Very low numbers for him. And then Disley, I don't know how to pronounce his name, the tight end from the Seahawks. Week 1, he had scored 2 touchdowns, and I thought, with week 1, it was just a fluke play. I don't have film on this guy. And he just visited it. I didn't really watch the guys. Maybe he just got lucky. flash in the pan. Well, here we are, week 2, and he's scored 2 weeks in a row. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of that yet, but I got a D for him this week because, again, he proved me wrong. All right, my prime time picks for week 3 coming up. So Sunday Night Football, we have the Patriots versus Detroit Lions. We have Bill Belichick versus Patricia, his old defensive coordinator. I'm taking the Patriots. You know, they came out, they played very poorly against the Jaguars. It's rare when we see the Patriots lose. How often do we see them lose back-to-back games? And let's face it, the Lions, they played better this last week, but they're still not playing what they're capable of. I think the Patriots go in and exploit that on Sunday Night Football and get the win. Monday night, and I kind of gave a spoiler earlier in this one, it's the Steelers versus the Buccaneers. I am picking the Buccaneers to beat the Steelers. I think the trend of their secondary getting pummeled through the air continues. I think Fitzpatrick lights them up. And speaking of Fitzpatrick, if you have not seen his press conference video yet from last week, you need to go find it here on YouTube. Type in Fitzpatrick press conference week 2, 2018 NFL season. And it's absolutely funny. He ends up stealing clothes from one of the wide receivers. So check that out. I picked the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win. If you got Fitzpatrick on your team, I would start him this week. Overall, I give myself for week 2. I give myself a C grade for week 2. Obviously, I had a C in every category this week. As a matter of fact, so I for the entire year of fantasy football, all 2 weeks right now, I'm sitting in an average grade. I have been an average fantasy analysis. But just understand, I'm an amateur. I'm looking at this from perspective. I pretty much just look at the numbers and do what I can. And I'm just kind of giving you some suggestions, and these are suggestions that I usually follow myself. So again, I'm at a C average for the year. But hey, at least I'm average. I'm not below average. So kind of concluding this out from the devotional portion of it. And we talked about how we have to stop buying into the lies that the world's telling us. And we have to put our faith and trust in God that we are a child of God and we are who He says we are. And some of us, we struggle with that. So what we do is we need to ask God to help us. Each time when the devil comes in, each time when that person that comes around that runs us down and makes us feel like dirt, we need to ask God to help us to not believe them. And we need to ask God to show us that we belong to Him, that He has a plan for us, that He loves us, and He wants to help us. Now, if you're in a situation where maybe you're self-harming, or you're thinking of even doing worse than that, or you're in a situation that's awful and you're being abused, hey, there are help outlets out there. Ask God for help. But God will tell you this. God will look at you and He will say, there are people out there who I've placed in your life who can help you. There are agencies that are available that can help you. Reach out and get some help this week if you're struggling with those things. Because again, you're so much more than that false prophet is trying to tell you. And you need to silence that false prophet in your life and believe in God and trust in Him that He has a plan for your life. And lastly, I have a quick plug here. I have a book on Amazon that I just put out. It's called Better Together. It's about our relationship with God, our relationship with others, and about how our personal relationship with God and all of those things work together. It's called Better Together. You can find it on Amazon.com. Just go there in the search bar, type Better Together by Jason Barnett. And here's something cool. Some of you, if you're like me, you like free stuff. From now until Sunday night, you can if you have the Kindle app on your phone, or if you have a Kindle or an e-reader, you can download the e-version of this book for free and check it out. So do that for me. Check it out. And I look forward to talking to you next week. Be sure to stay tuned to my blog, faithandfootball.blogspot.com, and be ready for tomorrow when I release the Help 3 guide. And I'm really looking forward to working on that this evening. Have a great day. If there's any way I can help you, you can email me. My email is pastorjasonbarnett@gmail.com. Thank you for your time. I'll talk to you next. I'll see you guys next week.